Aidan, tell me a story. Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Aidan, Tell Me a Story. Wow, it has been 10 years since I graduated. Well, almost, but still. I remember so vividly in high school when we were doing shows and the past seniors would come back to visit and they'd be like, oh, it's our 10-year anniversary, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I would think, oh my God, they're so old. That's such a long time from now. And here we are. 10 years later. So in this episode, I'm going to be reliving some of the highlights from freshman year to senior year, and maybe a little before and a little after. So join me on this crazy ride because I was not as much of a goody-goody as you think I was. Skipping class, stealing bricks, and a lot of shenanigans. You know, I can't believe how many people are like, wow, I never went to my 10-year anniversary. I would never go to mine. That's blah, blah, blah. That's blah, blah, blah. Why not? Are you scared? Are you scared, punk? No, I am so excited. I am so excited about mine. No, I may not be the superstar that I thought I was going to be, but I've done some pretty good things and I am definitely on my way. And this year is shaping up to be one of my best years yet, which I am so grateful for. There's a movie that I've been participating in for years now that's set to film this year, which is kind of freaking awesome. And I'm also going to be participating in a play, which again, this play I've been part of for a couple years. She just keeps rewriting it, and I'm going to be paid for the most I've ever been paid for a play. So that's kind of cool. So let's dive right in. Freshman, well, let's rewind a little bit and touch on some elementary and middle school moments. Just some highlights, so bear with me, okay? They'll be good, I promise. So I've talked about this before. So I've been bullied since 3rd grade. Obviously for being who I am, a gay man. But I mean, I didn't know who I was back then. I was just discovering myself and having fun and being a kid. And there were obviously other little kids who were taught otherwise and who were taught to condemn and degrade and, I don't know, be ugly to other little kids for shining their light. Okay. I mean, I get it. I was loud and maybe they just didn't get the love that they needed as a kid at home, because I did. Mom Peggy was there for me. Speaking of, I remember so many times we had meetings with the principal and the principal did nothing. Nothing. I know it still goes on today, but it's just like, you can do something. You can say something, principal. But the principal would just be like, oh, I'm so sorry that that's happened to you. I totally understand. And they just not do anything at all. It was so frustrating. In middle school, I remember this one moment so vividly. There was this kid who hated me for some reason. Likely because I was gay. He would call me homophobic slurs all the time and just be ugly towards me. There was one day where I was walking upstairs to one of my classes and he like punched me in the arm, and it was just a little like a little hit, but I was not having it. So I went upstairs to my teacher's class and I was so mad. You can tell when my energy's off. When my energy's off, everybody knows it, period. And the teacher was one of my favorite teachers. Shout out Miss Tyson. She was always supporting me, always rooting for me, always there for me. And she noticed right away and she asked me what happened, and I explained it to her, and she sent me straight to the principal's office to snitch, and I did. I remember seeing him afterwards as well in Walmart with Monica, and he was like at the end of the hallway, like banging his fist on the end of his hand, like giving me a dirty look. And I was like, oh my God. And so I went and told Monica, and he ended up following me to other aisles, and Monica saw him and she just flipped him off right then and there. And it was the funniest thing. He never messed with me again, naturally. Also in middle school, there was this one kid who like teabagged me, and like I don't know, I started playing tennis my middle school years as well, and I refused to change in the boys' locker room because they were just ugly little trolls who always were like, oh, you're looking at me. No, I'm not looking at you. So I would have the coach open the public bathroom and I would change in there by myself, VIP access, thank you, sir. But that was because I complained a lot about that. So as I got to high school, 3rd grade to freshman year is a crazy long time to be bullied. Crazy long time. But I mean, at least it wasn't as physical as it's depicted in movies and as we've seen it in people's stories throughout the universe. Like, it could have been way worse, and I'm grateful that it wasn't worse. And then freshman year, there was 2 main incidences that I remember. Towards the beginning of the year, there was a freshman. Well, he was the tennis coach, which is one of the reasons why I quit tennis. The other was because I joined theater, and you have to dedicate your whole life to theater or else. And second is because he was also my history teacher. If you know him, you know him. I do not like that man. This wasn't a big deal looking back as an adult. but in that moment, I was highly offended. There was this one kid that came in who was wearing shorts and like some athletic tights underneath or whatever. And the coach was like, "Oh, boys don't wear tights, blah, 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 blah," except, well, Aidan. And he, like, the way he said it was not cutesy, was not demure. It was rude and it was targeted, and I did not appreciate that or like that. So what did I do? I went and snitched on him, and I hope he got in trouble because he probably deserved it, that little. And then the big catalyst of my bullying that sent me over the edge was every single day going from lunch to our next class. I would have to, in the freshman center, I would have to walk up the stairs, and there is this one kid, and I remember his name, I do, but I won't say it on here. But every single day he would call me the F word. Every day. And I one day just flipped and I couldn't take it anymore. There was so much going on. I think I had already came out to Mom Peggy and Grandpa and everybody at that point. But this was like the moment where I was like coming out of my shell and becoming who I was. And so I flipped out. I started cussing at him like, "You little, you're not gonna do blah blah blah, you mother." And like he just disappeared into the passing period crowd and he never messed with me again. So shout out to my bravery, and that's what you need to do sometimes. You just need to spaz on them and they'll leave you alone. I also have to take a minute to shout out to one of my freshman year friends. He was this openly gay guy, and I had a little bit of a crush on him at the time. But he really just helped me own and reclaim the whole F word in and of itself. I remember one day we were walking down the hallway and there were these kids who obviously were bullies and insecure with themselves. They called us the F words while we were walking down the hallway, and he was like, "And I am, so what?" And I was just like, "What? We can do that?" Turns out you can. And I thought that was one of the coolest things that I've ever experienced, and reclaiming it really helped me set up my whole life. I don't know. So freshman year was also the year that I started theater. I got to do 2 shows that year. I wasn't one of the kids who got to do all 12 shows throughout their high school experience, but technically I got to perform on that stage before everybody else because I got to be in summer camp. So who really wins? Okay. Obviously, high school was one of the places where I met so many of my lifelong besties. Shout out to all of you guys. But I specifically remember Robin that year because we didn't talk freshman year. We weren't like close like that. But I remember being jealous of her because she got to be a starfish in The Little Mermaid, and I was just a server. I was a waiter, and she had this cool, huge costume, and I was jealous. I'll admit it. I was jealous. Ooh, which brings me to sophomore year. That is where I started forming a lot of deep friendships with a lot of my people and just reconnecting with the ones that I've already made throughout the years. I remember this one girl, and this has happened several times, where I see somebody, I'm like, "Ooh, they're gonna be my friend." And this girl was one of them. She was walking down the hallway singing to herself, like without a care in the world. She just seemed so cool. She wasn't like a popular kid by any means. She had moved there from New Orleans, and she just screamed authenticity. And that's what I love. And so naturally we became friends, and I invited her to come sit with me and my other friends at the lunch table, and like we just bonded. But then it took a turn. There was one day where we were coming back from the lunch line, and it was like Taco Tuesday or some shit, and you know how they have like the little salads and like a little extra piece of plastic, right? A little plastic cup, right? With lettuce, tomato, onions, or what have you. She was walking back to her seat, and like hers fell on the floor right before we got to our table, right? So it's like at the end of our table, essentially. And I was like, "Hey, are you gonna go pick that up?" And she was like, "No, that's what the janitors are for." And I was like, no, that's not what they're for. They're not to clean up after you personally. Yeah, they're here to wipe down the tables, clean up messes here and there. But if there's something that you can do to prevent them from working harder, you can do it. She didn't do it. So obviously I ended up going and picking it up and throwing it away. And then she called me the B word for doing that, which makes no sense to me. So needless to say, after that, we were no longer friends. And I have a soft spot for all the janitorial staff, the lunch ladies, all of the essential workers inside of a school system are my people. Okay, my tia was one of the head janitors at one of the colleges. Mom Peggy, Grandma Loopy, Grandma Mary. I believe all of my grandmas at some point in time have been a house cleaner, a housekeeper, or worked in the kitchen or something throughout their years. Okay, so I respect my people. Period. When you don't play with me when it comes to them. Okay. How do you think I got so thick? By being mean to the lunch ladies? You get free seconds by being kind. Learned that fast. Also, sophomore year was the year that I got to go to nationals. For all of y'all who don't know, there's this thing called Texas Thespian Festival, and there's a national area as well. And so every year it's in a different location, but I think some years they're back to back in the same location. However it falls, I got to go to nationals, but here's the kicker. I never even qualified for nationals. And I mean, that's not something to brag about. I wish I did. But I ended up doing monologue and everybody else did like a group number, and I should have done the group number too. But it's okay. It's okay. I still got to go to nationals and they didn't. And it was probably because I was being a crybaby about it, but I still got to go, and I had such a great time. That was so much fun. That was one of my first big trips out of Texas. We did a road trip to Nebraska, and I was like, who would have ever thought that I'd be going to Nebraska? But it was a lot of fun, and that was the first time I also got to experience a dry heat, which was beautiful. I could stand a dry heat. These humid heats, they ain't no joke. Now let's go into junior year. Junior year was such a fun year. That's when I really started to lean into who I was and lean on my people and just embrace my authenticity, okay? I joined MacCast that year, which is like our in-school news journalism TV station or what have you. That's where I learned how to edit. I learned how to film. I learned how to handle camera. I learned how to do a lot of stuff for that class, and I am kind of grateful for that class. That was a lot of fun. It was also my first time skipping class, thanks to Robin. And there's a story there. So if you know the auditorium there, especially our old one, we had a catwalk. And the catwalk, you would have to climb up the side of the stage, on the inside of the stage, so the audience couldn't see, but if you were on stage, you could see. And so we climbed up there, and there was like a little door, and with a good like 3 feet in between the last ladder and the plates where you had to climb into the catwalk at. So it was kind of scary and definitely dangerous. I don't know if anybody ever fell or got hurt, but you could have. There were like 3 of us there skipping that day. I think it was me, Robin, and Kaylee, but I'm not really sure. And we were chilling in the back of the catwalk, which is pretty much the entrance to the door entrance to the auditorium from the outside or what have you. And it was huge. It was a big building. We were there eating snacks, kikiing, having a great time. We were planning on just skipping one period. But then we heard the doors open and just keep opening. A big group of people coming into the auditorium. So we make our way to the front and look down, and there is the principal of the school standing on stage about to do a whole teacher conference in there. It was insane. So naturally we started laughing, and where the spotlights were, you could look down onto the stage, and there was one point where I remember the principal looking up and like squinting her eyes, and we had to like duck back, which you really can't see up there. And so I'm sure she just thought it was haunted, which it very well could have been. Our great grandparents went there. Well, maybe not great grandparents, but grandparents definitely went to that same high school. We ended up having to stay there for an extra period, maybe 2 periods, because this teacher conference was going on, and we couldn't necessarily sneak out because there was only one entrance and one exit, and Robin was afraid of heights, so it took her forever to climb up and climb down those stairs. But that was definitely a core memory. I also started a gay straight alliance junior year. Didn't follow through, but I started it. The voice and speech teacher at the time was our like club monitor or what have you, and I really was the one behind all of it, trying to lead it, trying to get people involved, and really trying to get this ball rolling. And the end shebang was me having to go have a meeting with the principal, and that was tough because our principal, she was just this middle-aged Mexican woman, and she like really, I don't know, y'all know how Hispanic people are sometimes when it comes to the LGBTQIA community. They're very prejudiced, they're very close-minded, and so she was sitting me telling me that like, why do you need this, why do you want this, like blah blah blah, my son this, my son that. And I don't even think her son's gay, but the point was she was trying to make that like, yeah, you're gay, but you don't need a club about it. But I'm like, yeah, we do. We need to feel safe. We need to have a space for everybody to come and feel safe. But here's the kicker. I had to pull a few names out of my bag because my family runs deep in Seguin, Texas, and my great aunt Delois Garrett, she was the president of the school board for a time period, and turns out as soon as I dropped that name, she was like, oh my god, she gave me my first job as a principal here at SHS and blah blah blah, maybe as a teacher, I don't remember what it was, but she gave her first job. And so that's how I got approved with the Gay Straight Alliance. Now, did I follow through? That's a different story. That's a lot of work. I just wanted to get the yes, and I got the yes, and I stepped away, and I did not continue because that was just truly a lot of work. But I'm proud of myself for getting that far. Nobody else did. That was also the first year I went to prom. Robin and I went together. We had such a blast. It was a fun night. I don't know. both of the proms really blend together now that it's been 10 years later. So I really can't differentiate them in my head, but I know that I had fun. Oh, I have so many great stories for y'all. Y'all are so lucky. Junior year was also the year that one of the seniors pranked us, and he got us real good. Again, the catwalk. Now, the catwalk, really only techies and seniors were allowed to go up there, but we all went up there. And so how it's set up is there's like little bridges that led throughout the catwalk, because it was basically essentially the roof, right? And so if you stepped in a certain area, you could just fall through. And we all just assumed that it was haunted. We were all a little scared to go up there. We all got a little negative vibes from being up there, especially being up there alone. It was creepy. Like, it was just a dark, empty space with some storage, and we did not like it like that. We didn't like it like that. It was fun to hide in, but we didn't like it like that. There was a senior who went up there, and he like sprinkled baby powder everywhere, and he like drew little like hoof prints and hand prints and like weird things throughout all of it, and he convinced all of us that was a ghost. And we didn't find out until after we graduated that he was the one who did it. We were bamboozled, hoodwinked, shooketh. Like, it was insane. And he ended up telling us that there were some balance beams alongside the bridges that he like balanced on to do all these shenanigans. It was so good. That was one of the best pranks I've ever had pulled on me in my life. Shout out to him. We also started, or had been doing, theater games. There was theater hide and seek, which I'll get to that story later. And there was also theater baseball, right? So much fun playing these games in the auditorium. The auditorium was big. It was old. There were so many places to hide, and it was the best. If you can invent a time machine and go back and be enrolled in our school during 2010 and 2015, do it, because you'll have a lot of fun. Every year for Halloween, we did this thing called Trick or Treat so kids can eat. We called it Tots Eats, and we would go collect cans instead of collecting candy. And at the end of the night, we would come back to the theater and dump them all off. And we had access to this theater with no supervision, which was kind of nice. So naturally, we stayed behind and we played some theater games. It was so much fun. We stayed there for hours playing theater baseball, theater hide and seek, creating new games, and just having a big old ball. And then we heard somebody trying to come in through the backstage doors, and we were like, well, who's that? We were like, let's just hide. And it ended up being a janitor, and I did not hide in time. But as you know, if you recall, I was BFFs with all the janitors. So I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. We were just down here. We were putting the cans away. We were just trying to get things situated for blah, 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 blah. I lied my ass off. And so she ended up leaving, and we just continued playing. And the next thing you know, she came back and she was like, hey, I really have to clean. And we were like, everybody was like scrambling to try to get out of there in time. And so I like had to finesse it a little bit and be like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's okay, blah, 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 blah. I think I might have left my phone or keys or something in there too. Who knows? But I had a great time, and that was a lot of fun. Oh no, that's what I did. I think the doors ended up being locked, and I asked the janitor to open the doors for me so that we could go in. Oh, I'm so sneaky. After that, we ended up going to the football field and playing sardines and a whole bunch of other little games. High school years were so much fun. Now let's go into senior year. Senior year was one of my most active and memorable years in my lifetime. Now, I'm not going to say like high school was the best years of my life, because my grandpa often said, these are the best years of your life. These are the best years of your life. They're not. They're not the best years of your life. They're some of the most memorable moments of your life for sure. They're shaping you. They're in your fundamental years. They help shape who you are, but they're not going to be the best years of your life. I've had better years, okay? Thespian Festival senior year, Robin and I got to audition in front of a whole bunch of different schools throughout the country, and we got to get scholarships and stuff. She got one to Dallas, and I got one to Jersey, Fairleigh Dickinson University. I don't really recommend it. That was not my place. It was very white, and it was also very musical theater based, but it's also like they stick to old shows and old things, and it's like they don't keep up with the times. They're not inclusive. It's just not it for if you're wanting some place that's inclusive, and it's not it. And I really wanted to focus more on film and TV at that point, and the only class they had was for seniors, so I'm like, I'm not doing it. I ended up transferring to the New York Conservatory for Dramatic Arts here in New York, and it was the best. It was the best idea I made. I loved it. I loved every second of it. I also got into habit of skipping second period a lot. Second period was our passing period. Second period was our office aid period, and they would give us papers and we were supposed to hand them out to students throughout the school, and 9 times out of 10 we would get the papers and then we would just dip to go get tacos. Hashtag shout out to Quick Taco, best tacos in the world, doesn't exist anymore, great salsa. And we would be gone for hours. It was the best. Well, not hours, but we would be gone for that whole class period and make it back just in time to grab our stuff and go. I love those moments. I think senior year was the year I went to my first party as well. It was a Halloween party. It was a mess. I do not encourage underage drinking, but I had a lot of fun. What can I say? But I was super safe too. Well, in my mind I was safe, but also my brain wasn't developed yet. Needless to say, I had a blast. That December was the first time I came to New York because I had gotten accepted to the school here in Jersey, and I just wanted to experience. So me, Julia, and Mom Shauna came up to New York, and we had such a blast. We got to experience so many things. Julia ended up getting sick, and we were wanting to go watch the ball drop, but we ended up going back to the hotel and oversleeping, and we woke up at like 11:39, and we were like, well, damn, we missed that opportunity. Well, here's a picture from that time. Robin and I also got to be on prom court. Of course, Julia won, but she deserved it. Seeing a plus-size black woman win prom queen is kind of freaking cool. She won homecoming queen too. And also having a gay and a plus size Mexican woman next to me, we were crushing it with the equality and inclusion during our senior year. Okay. And I think that was kind of rare for 2015 because that's the year gay marriage became legalized. And then I got to go to Globals for DI, Destination Imagination. I don't know if you've heard of it or if you have it in your schools or your area, but it was so fun. It was all about creativity and just trying to figure things out with your mind and with your skill and with your creativity. Like I said, there's also acting challenges, which is what I specialized in, obviously. We had to have like a phobia, so we did chewbita-crunchophobia. I think that was the name of ours, which there's this big giant who was eating these Cheetos. So all of the cast members were Cheetos except for me. I was like a fairy godfather and everybody was being eaten, and there was like Taylor Swiss and mozzarella and things. It was insane, but I loved it. We ended up getting 7th place in the world, and here's a picture of that. We look so cute. For those of you listening, if you want to watch it, you can catch the podcast on YouTube or check out my Instagram. And that was in Nashville, Tennessee. That was so much fun. I got to experience so much of the US being in high school. I think that is kind of cool. And I cannot forget the ending to our senior year, which was super tragic. We had a school shooting, and that was insane. It was second period. I was actually passing out the papers this time to the students, and I was chit-chatting with one of the math teachers because I had just came from there, and she used to be my old math teacher, but that's besides the point. I was walking down the hallway about to hit the breezeway, and if you know, well, our high school was set up back in the day where it was different buildings, but there was breezeways in between and on the side, and so you would have to walk in a building into a breezeway into another building kind of area. Kind of thing, just to set the story up. And so I was walking to the breezeway, and there was this big group of teachers saying, go that way, and they were running, and so of course I naturally was running too, because if you see a group of teachers running, you're gonna run. And so I ended up running back to the office, which, side note, I should have went to the theater room because I heard they were playing games, but we were sitting there just confused and scared and worried, and I had to call my grandparents, I had to call everybody and just be like, there's a school shooting, I don't know what's going on, I'm okay. I'm gonna be okay. And I'm sure everybody was scared shitless. They ended up moving us from the office to the big gym. There were students trying to fight the disciplinary teachers, and there was just a lot of chaos going on. We ended up not getting out of class until 5 o'clock. What had happened was that there was a kid who brought a pew-pew on campus, and he ended up committing suicide, which is super unfortunate, and may he rest in peace. He did not deserve that. He was a senior, and I want to say it was a month before we graduated. It was something crazy close to us graduating, which was so sad, made it even more sad. Rumor had it that he had asked a girl to meet him, and apparently he was gonna take her along with him, but she ended up not going. But that's all hearsay. We don't know what's true, what's not true. It was just a super sad and scary moment, and my heart goes out to him and his family because that's something no one should have to go through. And unfortunately, I heard that there were some students who saw it happen too, which is so sad. It happened in one of the breezeways. So yeah, And then after that, several of the main buildings were torn down, and they started the process to rebuild for the future high school students. And so me and a whole bunch of our other friends, we would go sneak onto the campus, because at this point there was no fences, nothing. And we would just go rummage through the rubbish. I actually have a piece of the curtain, and I have a brick from the auditorium. It's just so cool to have a piece of that memorabilia from that time period. Could we have gotten hurt really bad? Yes. Did we? No. So that's a plus. Just to shout out some of my most influential and favorite teachers throughout the years. Miss Contreras, she really helped me in middle school, helped me understand my migraines, helped me understand my life, helped me to just affirm like being who I am is okay, and being gay is okay. Like, don't let the bullies win kind of attitude. She was super cool, and she was one of the most fundamental women in my life in that time period, and I'm so grateful for that. Also, my librarian from middle school as well, which is crazy. She was married to my elementary school PE coach, which they're just such cool, down to earth, caring, compassionate people. So I'm so grateful for all of them, which she really helped me when I was having a really rough time with my cousin, but we argued all the time, as you heard in my last podcast. And naturally, all of the drama teachers throughout my life who have been there for me and really helped push me and my creativity, and just know and see the light in me, which I really appreciate, because I have known I wanted to do this since I was 6. And so here I am, and I'm forever grateful for them. And I am so grateful I still get to work with these women too. And here I am now. And this year is shaping up to be one of the best years of my life. I joined SAG in 2022. So I feel like an official actor. I've done countless background roles for film, TV, commercials, and it was just a lot of fun. I've got to work and be principal for big brands like Garnier and Izzy, which was so fulfilling. It fulfilled such a core part in my soul, and I'm so grateful for that. And this year I'm filming a movie called Silent Bark. You can find it on IMDb. It's essentially about a woman who discovers seedy goings on inside a veterinarian clinic, and I play a pet groomer. It's so fun. I've got to go to Chicago several times to rehearse and do table reads and stuff, so keep an eye out for that. I'm going to be doing the play Stormy again. That should be around the same time, which is like April or May. And naturally, I'm still part of the web series The Go-To with one of my favorite creative partners, June Marie Davis, which you need to keep an eye out for a podcast with her coming soon. I'm going to get all her creative deets out of her. And honestly, this last 10 years has been such a roller coaster of life. I mean, Mom Peggy passed away. I've had so many important loved ones pass away throughout these last 10 years that it's just been crazy. But it really all sets you up for understanding life and moving forward. And it helps you understand that nothing is permanent, and that there's a reason that I'm here, so I might as well keep trying my hardest and being the best me that I could possibly be. If I had any advice for current high school students, it would be to understand that it's not always going to be fun. And the adults are not always going to understand you and listen to you and get you. But there are a lot of people in your life that you could potentially carry on for the rest of your life. Like I said, I've made so many fantastic lifelong friends from high school who get me, who see me, who understand me. And I know high school is full of peaks and valleys, but that's your whole life. Try to learn how to navigate that and own that, and then keep that going forward. Especially for all of you who want to be actors or creatives in this world, it is nothing but peaks and valleys. You can go from making a couple $1,000s on a commercial to wondering how you're going to eat in a month and a half later. But always keep at the forefront of your mind, whatever is meant for you will not pass you by. And if I could say anything to past baby Aidan, I would say keep shining your light and being your authentic self, because everybody else can see it, and the haters and the bullies are just bullying because they can see it too, and they're jealous of it. And they don't know how to shine their light and own their truth. The only way that they can see to be happy is to dim yours. So keep shining it harder and brighter than ever, because look at you now, Aidan. You're crushing it. You may not be on the cover of magazines, but you are on your way and you're killing it. And I'm so proud proud of you. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to my podcast and supporting me and continuing to support me. It has been so fun getting to do this. And sometimes I film these and I'm like, why am I doing this? Is anybody even listening? But I know that you are. And I'm so grateful. I saw a social media post of somebody being like, oh, your friends aren't going to support you. Your family's not going to support you. And I was just like, mine do. So I'm grateful for y'all for that, because that makes me feel happy. That makes me feel happy, grateful, and blessed. And I hope that I'm supporting you as much as you're supporting me. And if I'm not, just remind me to, because I be forgetting. Next week's podcast is going to be some of my besties, Julia and Robin, which we're going to be touching on some of these topics I talked about today. Again, if this podcast resonated with you in any way, shape, or form, please share this with somebody you like or love and let them hear this and get something from this too. And if it's your 10-year high school anniversary, comment below and tell me that you're with me. Tell me why you're going or why you're not going, because I want to know. Okay, love you. Bye.